If you ever find yourself in Laos, your first impression might be how wonderfully unhurried everything feels. In Vientiane, the capital, which one might expect to be bustling and noisy like other Southeast Asian cities such as Hanoi, Bangkok, or even Phnom Penh, the evenings are surprisingly peaceful. The streets have relatively little traffic, and the sound of car horns is rare. Shopkeepers take their time serving customers, nodding and smiling when an order is placed before leisurely heading to the kitchen. This unhurried pace is integral to the Lao identity. But what has led an entire nation to embrace such a relaxed way of life? First, one must consider geography. Laos is the only landlocked country in Southeast Asia. Its land area is about 2/3 that of Vietnam, but its population is smaller than that of Hanoi, let alone Ho Chi Minh City. This translates to a very low population density. Over 70% of the country is mountainous, with most people living along the Mekong River. With no coastline, major ports, or bustling international trade centers, Laos's economy has developed more slowly than its neighbors. Urbanization has also been gradual, avoiding the pressures of rapid growth seen in other countries where city life often dictates a faster pace. Many Laotians still rely on agriculture, fishing, foraging, handicrafts, and small-scale trading. This close relationship with nature encourages a lifestyle of sufficiency, where people work to meet their needs without excessive accumulation. In contrast to Hanoi, where pho vendors might start their day at 3 a.m. to prepare for the breakfast rush, vendors in Vientiane leisurely set up around 7 a.m., and customers are in no particular hurry. Another significant factor is the deep-rooted influence of Buddhism. Approximately 2/3 of the Lao population practices Theravada Buddhism, a branch that emphasizes detachment, contentment, and tranquility. A popular Lao saying, often translated as "no worries" or "it's okay," encapsulates this philosophy and has become a way of life for the entire society. Laotians are generally less argumentative, less easily angered, and less competitive. They believe that everything will eventually be all right, that it's okay. In Vietnam, a minor traffic incident might easily escalate into a heated argument, while in Laos, people are more likely to simply smile, wave it off, and continue on their way. Their slowness is really about cultivating peace of mind. Looking at Lao history provides further insight into their preference for a relaxed pace. For centuries, the country has been positioned between larger neighbors like Siam, Thailand, and Dai Viet, Vietnam, with China to the north. In modern times, the French and Americans also had a presence there. The once powerful Lan Xang kingdom gradually fragmented and lost territory, eventually becoming a colony. The Lao people learned to be content with their lot in order to survive, living peacefully to avoid being crushed in power struggles. As one scholar noted, the Lao chose to live slowly, not out of laziness, but as a clever survival strategy for a small nation surrounded by powerful countries. This slowness, ultimately, is a survival mechanism that has been culturally ingrained over hundreds of years. The Lao economy also contributes to maintaining this slow pace. Their per capita GDP is quite low, significantly lower than that of neighboring countries like Vietnam and Thailand. Agriculture still employs about 60% of the workforce, while industry and services are developing slowly. The job market is less competitive, with less pressure to meet key performance indicators, KPIs, or deadlines, unlike in industrialized cities. This allows people to live more leisurely lives, reminiscent of Vietnam several decades ago. In government jobs, Lao employees rarely work overtime, leaving on time rather than working late to meet deadlines, as is common in Vietnam. Laotians also enjoy celebrations, especially the Baun Pi Mai Lao Festival, Lao New Year Water Festival. During this time, the entire country takes a break to dance, splash water, and have fun, with little regard for work. This has become deeply ingrained in Lao culture. When compared to other countries, the differences are striking. The Japanese are known for their punctuality and precision, operating with clockwork efficiency. The Vietnamese live at a fast pace, sometimes bordering on cutthroat, always thinking they need to act quickly to get ahead. The Thai are also relaxed, but still more agile because their tourism industry is developed, and they need to be quick to serve tourists. The Lao, on the other hand, are always slow and deliberate, taking their time in everything they do. This slow pace offers advantages in many ways. Tourists are drawn to Laos precisely because of its relaxed and peaceful atmosphere. Here, you'll find less traffic congestion, fewer blaring horns, friendly and approachable people, and less stress. Crime rates are also lower than in many neighboring countries. Health reports indicate that Laotians suffer less from stress-related illnesses and depression compared to people in more industrialized nations. By living slowly and peacefully, they maintain better mental health, experience less pressure, and have fewer worries. Of course, being too slow is not ideal. The Lao economy is developing slowly, with low average incomes, weak infrastructure, and difficulty attracting foreign investment until the construction of the railway system by China. While Thailand and Vietnam have been racing toward industrialization and service-based economies, Laos is still largely focused on agriculture, hydropower, and mining. The Lao government has repeatedly urged its citizens to be more dynamic and proactive, but cultural habits are not easily changed. People have grown accustomed to a slow pace of life over centuries, making it difficult to suddenly speed up. And when traveling on the roads in Laos, one of the most noticeable things is the lack of traffic jams and honking. These are very typical of the Lao culture of slow living and peace. In Laos, one thing that surprises people is that almost all day long on the road, you almost never hear a car horn. In Vietnam, Thailand, or even Cambodia, the sound of horns is almost inseparable from the traffic. Sometimes it's to ask for the right of way, sometimes it's to remind people, and sometimes it's a way to express impatience, or many young people in Vietnam like to honk just because. But in Laos, the streets of Vientiane or Luang Prabang are usually strangely quiet. People drive calmly, yielding to each other, and consider honking loudly to be a bit rude. This habit is associated with the Lao philosophy of "it's okay, everything will be fine." If they come across a slow-moving vehicle, Laotians are willing to wait patiently for a few seconds rather than honking to urge them on. If someone cuts in front of them, they don't get angry but usually wave it off. That slowness and gentleness transforms the traffic into a tranquil scene, quite different from the noisy familiarity of cities in Vietnam. In addition to cultural factors, there's also a practical reason. Laos has far fewer vehicles compared to its neighbors. With a population of just over 7 million and no ultra-crowded cities, traffic in Laos is generally quite smooth. No traffic jams, no crowds, no rush, so there's no need for loud honking to fight for space. Even during rush hour in the capital, the situation is much calmer. To visualize it, in Hanoi, car horns are like loudspeakers on the street, which everyone has to use to assert themselves. In Bangkok, car horns are like a language to negotiate every meter of road. And in Vientiane, car horns are like a person who is afraid to speak, only making a sound when absolutely necessary. Therefore, someone who brings the habit of constantly honking in Vietnam to Laos will probably immediately become an out-of-place noisy person in a society that is inherently gentle and quiet. And people still joke that when you see someone honking loudly in Vientiane, that car probably came from Vietnam. The limited honking also clearly reflects the slow pace of life in Laos. It shows that people here do not like conflict, do not get easily agitated, but always maintain calm and give way to others. In Laos, driving is not just about moving around, but also a way to express their character to some extent. Gentle, peaceful, and unhurried. In summary, The reason why the Lao live slowly comes from a combination of many factors. There is the gentle, unpressured natural environment. There is Buddhism, which teaches detachment and peace. There is a history of forming a mindset of contentment and a socio-economic situation that is not strong enough to force people to be faster and more hasty. That slowness has created the unique identity of the Lao, making anyone who comes here feel like they are resting, like they are returning to an old pace of life in Vietnam many decades ago, without competition and without haste. The Vietnamese have become accustomed to living fast, sometimes so fast that they forget to enjoy life. The Japanese live as precisely as a clock, but they also pay the price with pressure and stress. As for the Lao, they remind us that sometimes slowing down, smiling, and saying it's okay to everything is also a way to enjoy happiness. And perhaps it is thanks to that slow pace of life that the land of a million elephants still retains a gentle and peaceful charm that captivates visitors from all over the world. Thank you for following this story. If you found it interesting, you can click the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share. And now, let me say goodbye.